which was shocking. According to the Athletics, Dane Brugler, him and Matthew Golden will both be at the green room or in the green room during the 2025 NFL draft. And I'm sorry, but there is nothing in my head that tells me that Jaylen Milro is going to be a first-round pick. But now that he's invited, you got to start thinking that the NFL knows something we don't, that these players don't just get picked randomly. Nobody's just like, all right, we'll take 5 names out of a hat and we'll call them and see if they want to show up. It's not how this works. They take the guys that they believe, they invite the guys that they believe are going to be first-round picks. And quarterback is the most flashy position. So they're going to invite quarterbacks. Jaylen Milro, in my eyes, and I think in a lot of other eyes, is not a first-round pick. But the NFL, again, knows something that we don't. And what it most likely means is that there are teams who have a first-round grade on Jaylen Milro, who look at Jaylen Milro and say, this guy is going to go in the first 32 picks of the draft. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, are an interesting team to watch in this situation. Why? Because if it falls to where Jackson Dart and Jaylen Milro are standing in front of the Pittsburgh Steelers and they're thinking quarterback, which I'm not saying that they're going to. I'm not saying that I would either. I do not believe wholeheartedly that I would pick a quarterback in the first round of this NFL draft. I would not. I think the 4th round is where I'm looking quarterback if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I now am fully convinced Jaylen Milro is not going to be there in the 3rd round. I don't see a quarterback in the first 3 rounds that is worth taking where you are determined and, set in stone, this guy is going to be your guy. I think that is a massive risk to be taking. But the Pittsburgh Steelers and many other teams make their grades and talk to the NFL, and then the NFL, they send those invites. And if the Steelers find themselves, just to backtrack here, with Jackson Dart and Jaylen Milro at 21, I don't think anybody could sit here and say that it is guaranteed that in the Steelers' eyes, not ours, in the Steelers' eyes, which we do not agree with most times, but in the Steelers' eyes, they would not go with Jaylen Milro. You can go back to Mike Tomlin's final press conference of the 2024 season. It was January. I was sitting right there. Alan Saunders asks about the finding a quarterback early, and if you believe that you need to find a quarterback early to be successful in the NFL. And Mike Tomlin's response is that Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts were not early picks in the NFL draft. You want to know who's being compared to both Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson? Jaylen Milro. You want to know who Mike Tomlin loves to just cling himself to? Those big, flashy names with a ton of athleticism at the position that he says he must target. The Steelers love to do that. Do I think it's the right move? No. Nobody should. Nobody should be sitting around saying the Pittsburgh Steelers need to glue themselves to quarterback because they need to go find it. Because you want to know what that leads to? That leads to Artie Burns at corner. That leads to Terrell Edmonds at safety. That leads to, Ziggy Hood in a much lesser degree, but Ziggy Hood at defensive end, defensive tackle. That leads to guys that the Pittsburgh Steelers say, we aren't looking best player available. We're looking at quarterbacks. We're looking at this position. It leads to Kenny Pickett. And the Steelers should not be doing that. They should not, by no means, be sitting around saying, okay, let's go get a quarterback. We have to go get our quarterback. Our quarterback is Jaylen Milro. But if they're both there, it would not surprise me at all if the Pittsburgh Steelers say, okay, we're in this for the long haul. We need a guy that's got a ton of upside. You want to know who's got the most upside outside of Cam Ward in the entire NFL draft at the quarterback position? Jaylen Milro. You want to know who's got the worst floor of any quarterback in the NFL draft? Jaylen Milro. Both things are true. The Pittsburgh Steelers might only be blinded by the floor and say, look at that upside. Look at the athleticism on that guy. We still believe we're going to get Aaron Rodgers, so he's our quarterback this year. Jaylen Milro gets to sit there, and he's the guy next year. He gets to learn from Aaron Rodgers. Again, I don't agree with the situation, but I could see it happening. The Pittsburgh Steelers showed their hand that they were real interested in this guy, taking him out to dinner. You don't overlook the dinner. The Steelers are known to be taking the guys that they want to draft out to dinner. They took Broderick Jones out to dinner the year before he was ever drafted. That's how much they do this. They took him out to dinner. They showed up at his pro day. They talked to him at the Senior Bowl. They talked to him at the Combine. We still got a month before top 30 visits are over, and it's a weird draft cycle to where guys like Tyler Warren only have 130 visit. So maybe guys just don't have a 30 visit. Maybe the teams are weird on this. Maybe prospects are getting weird on this. I don't know. Maybe the Steelers don't want to show their hands too much, and they're bringing in Jackson Dart as a smokescreen to say, Saints, go get that guy because we're going to take Jaylen Milro. Maybe the NFL believes that Jaylen Milro has surpassed a name like Tyler Shuck. I don't know. I don't trust mock drafts. They're never that big to me. What I do trust most times are the NFL draft invites, because the NFL talks directly to these teams to say, hey, who's got first-round grades on who? Okay, we're going to invite all these guys. Could be the Steelers hitting the panic button, which is the other side of this situation. You don't want the Steelers to hit the panic button and say, oh, man, he's here. That means we got to draft him. Oh, what do we do? I don't know. I think it's very, I don't want to say alarming yet. It's early to say alarming, but something to watch. For sure, something to watch with Jaylen Milro being at the NFL draft and the Steelers having a heavy interest in Jackson Dart and Jaylen Milro, shutting down the Shedeur Sanders thing and saying, man, maybe these guys are going to be available and we're going to take one of them. I would not rule it out, but I think it is a concerning element of this draft cycle to monitor.